Salman Khan is probably India's biggest movie star today, but he's also Bollywood's controversy child. From the killing of endangered animals to the hit-and-run case in which he was eventually let off, Salman has been luckier than a cat with 9 lives. But not today. The superstar actor has been sentenced to 5 years in jail for the killing of an endangered blackbuck in Rajasthan in 1998, 20 years ago. He has, of course, applied for bail in the High Court, but that will not be heard until tomorrow. And that means Bhai, as his fans call him, is spending tonight in jail. The same jail as Asaram Bapu, by the way, the self-styled godman who's been put away on rape charges, among other things. There are many different points of view on Salman. Some say he's getting the harsh end of the stick because he's a movie star, but others believe he's actually got away with much worse, exactly for the same reason. So has justice been served? We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And coming up a little later, this Parliament session is now heading for a complete washout. Parliament will be adjourned tomorrow. It is the least productive budget session since the year 2000. The NDA says its ministers are giving up their salaries for all the days lost, but should in fact all MPs be doing the same? That's the big debate in about 30 minutes. But first, how a Jodhpur court found Salman Khan guilty of poaching a blackbuck 20 years ago and sentenced him to 5 years in jail.
Salman Khan entering Jodhpur Central Jail. 20 years after he killed 2 blackbuck, the megastar was convicted this morning and sentenced to 5 years in prison along with a 10,000 rupee fine. As he was being led away, there were huge cheers from the Bishnoi community, men and women who have been fighting against Khan. The Bishnois revere the blackbuck like a god. It's also an endangered species protected under the Indian Wildlife Act. Salman's lawyers have filed for bail, but tonight Khan will spend the night in the same jail as another famous convict, Asaram Bapu.
कोर्ट ने एक रूटीन में जिस दिन अपील पेश होती है उसके दूसरे दिन सुनते हैं, इसलिए इस केस में भी कल ही सुनेंगे। ये अदालत पर डिपेंड करता है कि कल सुनवाई होने के बाद वो क्या आदेश पारित करते हैं।
सभी को मिलाने के पश्चात जो एक निर्णय पहुंचा है, निश्चित तौर पे ये एक ऐतिहासिक निर्णय, उसी के तहत आज इनको सजा हुई है।
Salman shot the animal in 1998 when he was shooting the film Hum Saath Saath Hain. His co-stars in the film, Saif Ali Khan, Tabbu, Sonali Bendre and Neelam were in the jeep with him at the time. They were, however, acquitted by the court. Giving his verdict, the Jodhpur Sessions Court judge said, the accused is an actor who a lot of people look up to and emulate. Despite that, he killed 2 endangered innocent animals. There is increased poaching. Therefore, keeping in mind the severity of his crime, he stands convicted.
उनका नंबर 106 है, 106 2 नंबर वार्ड में रखा गया है। अभी तक तो उन्होंने खाया नहीं है, हालांकि खाने के मेनू में दाल थी।
For Salman's family and friends, a difficult time. His 2 sisters, Arpita and Alvira, his longtime bodyguard Shera, were all in court with him. According to reports, his sisters broke down while hearing the verdict.
बुरा लग रहा है क्योंकि फिल्म इंडस्ट्री ने इतना सारा उनके ऊपर इन्वेस्ट किया हुआ है, उनको नुकसान होगा। 20 साल बाद अभी उनको ऐसा लग रहा है कि वो गिल्टी है, मगर लॉ है, takes its own course. What can one say?
He has all along maintained his innocence. In fact, in an interview to NDTV in 2009, he had said he was simply feeding biscuits to the animal.
We saw their fawn and he was stuck in a bush. We took him out. I took him out from there and we gave him some water. I think from there, this whole thing came. Yeah.
From the time he walked into this court just after 11 a.m. in the morning till he walked out at about 3 p.m. and into a waiting police gypsy. It was a tense 4 hours for actor Salman Khan. As of now, Salman will spend 1 night at least in jail till the court right next door to the one that sentenced him, till this court hears his bail application tomorrow morning at 10:30. In Jodhpur, with cameraman Shamshu Zoha, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
And joining us on NDTV this evening, we have with us Suhail Seth, Anil Dharkar, author and columnist, Satish Manas Shinde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Zafar Sareshwala, who's a family friend of Salman Khan's, and Gauri Mulekhi, who's a well-known animal rights activist. She's here in the studio with us. Let's first take this question to you, Suhail Seth. Suhail, is Salman Khan getting what he deserves, even if it's 20 years too late? Or are you in that school of thought that believes he's actually being punished because he's a celebrity?
No, I believe a bit of both. And you alluded to it in your opening remarks. I have no quarrel with the fact that if a crime has been committed, punishment must follow. So let's park that. There's no condoning what happened, allegedly or non-allegedly. But the reality is that our justice system is in a miserable shape. It's in a miserable shape if it allows for two things. Number one, for a case to take 2 decades. And number two, if you, as you alluded, allows itself to be pulled by the trials and tribulations of power and celebritydom. The reality, Nidhi, is that for the last 20 years, this case has been dragged on. Now, some people could say that because celebrities have access to vast pools of resources, they can allow themselves this liberty and this luxury. The other school of thought is that celebrities are often preyed on because they are celebrities. So, you know, it cuts both ways. There is greater media scrutiny, there's more probity, there's more peer pressure amongst judicial officers. The reality is today is not an indictment of Salman Khan alone, it's also an indictment of our justice system, which I hope learns from this lesson.
That comment, of course, is a fair comment, Suhail, because yes, obviously there is a problem with the justice system when it takes 20 years to hear a case about the killing of a black buck. I mean, if that black buck hadn't been alive, it would probably have been dead anyway by now. But the point, Suhail, is that in Salman Khan's case, he has often gotten into trouble with the law and he's often gotten away with it. Now, is that because of his celebrity? Or, take a stand on this. Or do you feel that a 5-year sentence is too harsh and that the judge is trying to make an example of him?
So, I think you've asked a brilliant question, and let me deconstruct it for you using the prism of logic. When a guy is indicted, then we hail the law. When the same law sets him free, we say, has he gotten away? So you've got to make up your mind which way this should go. I'm a great believer if the majesty of the law remains supreme. What we have to understand is when his or her majesty tends or decides to act. Number two, I don't believe that I can comment. Satish is a far better commentator on the nuances of the law than I am. I don't know whether 5 years is enough, 5 years is less, but I do know 20 years of trauma, both on the people who complained and people who fought this court battle and on Salman, is a tad unfair. The trauma of indecision, the trauma of being dragged to court, the trauma of having, you know, this constant battle in your mind. Now someone asked me, oh, but he's lived well for the last 20 years. He's been a star. Now you can't prevent a person from pursuing his profession just because the law can't make up its mind when to decide a case. So, you know, if you approach this logically, you can't have a situation where if the law allows him to go free, we blame him, and where the law indicts him, then we say, wow, the law is great. Well, we have to decide whether we accept the majesty of justice or we don't.
Well, Satish Manishinde, as a lawyer, what do you think? This is completely within the purview of the law. From what I understand, he could have got up to 6 years in jail for this particular crime under the law. It's 5 years. Do you think that because it's taken 20 years, 5 years is too harsh, or that it's just right?
Well, in any event, whether it is taken 5 years or 20 years to decide this case, the punishment is very harsh. I have seen a large number of criminal cases in my last 35 years of practice. Even people in the bomb blast case, in the Bombay bomb blast, who were accused of much more heinous crimes, who had participated in landing and bringing bombs to Bombay, and large number of firearms. They were sentenced to 5 years of rigorous imprisonment. To send Salman for a rigorous imprisonment of 5 years, according to me, is very harsh. First of all, you'll have to see the kind of evidence that has been brought. I have seen through the case, and I have seen the evidence in the case. The main allegation against Salman was that he was driving the car, and I fail to understand how a person who was driving the gypsy could have also fired at the black buck. Secondly, I sincerely believe that it was not Salman Khan who fired at the black buck. Thirdly, the fact that it has taken 20 years for a trial of this minuscule nature tells us that the judicial system in our country, the criminal justice system in our country, is in a pathetic state. We have more than 3.5 crores of cases pending in the trial courts. We have more than 2 crores of cases pending in the Supreme Court and High Courts. the number of judges which are sanctioned tells us that 40% of them are, 40% of the courts are vacant. The Law Commission as well as
But we
various
actually
commissions
don't need Salman Khan's case to tell us that. We know that.
Advised that we should have double number of
He's probably
judges
only going to spend
parade
one night
Salman
in
Khan
jail.
for the last
Other
20
under trials are
years.
not so lucky in this country. I mean, the point is, why should it take
to
Salman
parade
Khan's
Salman
case to
Khan
tell
in
us
the
that our
trial
criminal
court for
justice
the last
system is
20
collapsed?
years and send him for 5 years is a travesty of justice according to me.
You're saying travesty of justice. Gauri Mulek, you were shaking your head when Satish Manishide was
Look at
speaking
the
there.
Upar case.
Okay.
31 people died in that case.
Yeah.
And the punishment that was meted out at the Supreme Court was 2 years.
Yeah.
How can you equate that case with this case?
I agree with you on that point.
Well,
Was it too harsh, or is it within the purview of the law?
We really cannot comment on the
It may be within
punishment
the
or the
purview of
severity
law, but it's too
of the
harsh.
punishment at this stage, because that is the sovereign function of the Government of India. When the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 was made in 1972, and it was decided that the quantum of punishment should be such, and it has only been increased since then, not decreased. From 6 it's become 7 years. So if the magistrate considered it fine to put him behind bars for 5 years, it's perfectly fine. Really, it was within his purview to put him behind bars for 6 years as well. Moreover, the justice system takes time, whatever, that is one end of it. But also the other end has to be seen, that it wasn't pending for a final judgment for 20 years. The investigation took perhaps that bit of time, and the investigation under the Wildlife Protection Act is done by the forest departments, which in this case had been shabby at best. But still, if the result at the end of it was found, in favor of the state by the judge, there's really nothing to...
So you think justice has been served?
Absolutely, absolutely. Although 6 would have been a... And the
You
other
actually think he
accused
should have been sentenced to 6 years in jail, not just 5?
Correct. And the other accused as well, because the investigation was shabby, they could not perhaps be, found guilty. But if there was better investigation, they would have certainly gone behind bars. The other thing is that we might trivialize the crime against an animal and say that 5 years is too harsh and this man is just too popular to go behind bars for 5 years. It has also been pointed out by the Interpol that wildlife trafficking and poaching is one of the 3 biggest crimes in the world after narcotics and arms and ammunition. So this is not just, this is one time he got caught, perhaps I don't know how many times he did get away with poaching. I mean, the chinkara he got away with, so many other things he must have gotten away with. So this is
likely to get bail. But you obviously have a very different view. Anil Tharkar, a lot of celebrities have already been saying in the last few hours, well, we feel really sorry for Salman. He's a good guy. He's changed a lot in the last 20 years. Look at all the charity he's doing. Look at all the good work he's doing. Look at all the films that are riding on him. I think some 700 crores are at stake. And if he does go behind bars for 5 years, if he does, then, that would put a lot of livelihoods at stake as well. What's your take on that? To those in the film industry who come out and say that because he's done good charity work and that he's a good guy, he doesn't deserve to really be behind bars?
I think these arguments are irrelevant. Whether he's reformed, he's become a good guy, etc., he's been tried for a particular crime. Whether it's taken 5 years, 20 years, that's part of our system. Let's not go into that. We know it's a terrible system, and there's no cure for it. But in this particular case, the law says, all right, it's up to 6 years, say he's been given 5 years. Now, there is an element of a punishment because he's a big star, because I believe the judge said that the public looks up to him because he's a big film star, and therefore we should make an example of it. I'm not quoting exactly, but I think that is the gist of what was said. Therefore, it is possible that he has been given an enhanced sentence than if it was somebody else. On the other hand, you could say that you have to make an example of someone because it serves as something which people will then say, my goodness, our justice system is very, very serious about these laws and we better watch out. So there is that element too.
But you don't buy the whole
at the same
he's
time,
a good guy argument.
Celebrity
That's
thing
irrelevant to the legal argument.
Absolutely, but this film star element comes in because in the other case which was much more serious because he's actually supposed to have killed somebody, a pavement dweller. That case was, when it came up for hearing, it was really rushed through, and suddenly after many years the driver says, I was driving the car, and the main witness, who was the policeman assigned to protect Salman Khan, who was sitting with him and who had said that Salman was driving, unfortunately he died of natural causes. So the prime witness there had disappeared. So you can say that Salman got away with, well, could have got away with murder in that case, actual murder, and here he's got punishment for killing an animal.